day everybody, it is Calxiyn here, and if you enjoyed this video, you should subscribe for more anime reviews and reactions. Today I am going to be doing my reaction and review to Shadow's House episode 13. I'm excited, I'm also a little bit scared, but let's do all of our little housekeeping for today before we get into it. Remember that if you want to connect with me elsewhere, my social medias are down below. You should also join the Discord server to talk with us about the anime that I'm currently watching, or Shadow's House. We can still talk about Shadow's House even though it's all over, but there's still the channel and the Discord server, and I am thinking, so here's the second thing. The second thing is, should I do manga reviews? Because here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, I'll wait a year, and if season 2 isn't confirmed, that probably means it'll never happen. Not that it needs to come out within the year, but, confirmed, right? I think that, if a show isn't confirmed within the year that it releases, most of the time, that kind of means that nothing's happening. You know what I mean? I remember when I watched Beastars, at the very end of Beastars season 1, they said season 2, in development, or, coming out, or being worked on, confirmed, something like that, right? If there's nothing like that here, and then within the year we don't hear anything, I think it's probably safe to say that there won't be one. I don't know. And so I'll wait. But I am sort of thinking that, I'll wait, and then if there's not, I'll do the manga review, but if there is, I'll just hold out, because I do want, my reactions to the anime to still, exist. You know what I mean? I can't really do anime reactions if I do the manga reviews. The manga reviews are kind of a last resort type situation, for me. But I am going to be doing those, for The Promised Neverland, because we all know what happened with The Promised Neverland, you know what I'm saying? And so I am doing them, or I am going to start them for some other shows. So what do you guys think about, starting the manga? When's an appropriate amount of time, pass for me to be okay, there's, no hope of this anime getting a season 2. Let me just, review the manga and do kind of, reactions and reviews like this, but to the manga. I'll just, have to think of a format for it and all of that type of stuff. So let me know about that. What else do I have to talk about? Right. Okay, and so my full-length timer and subtitle reaction for this episode is up on Patreon, obviously, but so are all of my other ones. So you go on your Funimation account, you press play when I press play, and then that way we're all supporting the show, and you can also see, my full-length reaction and all that type of stuff. So you get to see episode 13, but if you pledge now, you'll actually get all the other ones as well, which I think is kind of cool. I'm having, a little Calxiyn only, remember, no footage, so Calxiyn only, little streaming service backlog for, I have Attack on Titan up on there, I have now Shadow's House and all that stuff, so if you pledge now, you can see all of them, even though it's just $10 basically. You don't need to pay individually for them, despite how many there are, and so that's kind of, I don't know, that's just kind of a cool thing. And so now that I have rambled, and I have stalled, and I have fucked up the recording a couple times, I don't want to psychoanalyze myself, but I was having so much trouble with this. I've been trying to record this intro for the past 15 minutes. That's half of the episode that I could have been watching, and I just couldn't get past certain points. I couldn't even get past the good day everyone, it's Calxiyn, and I was why? But then I realized that I think it's just one of those things where you don't want it to be over, so you're almost prolonging it as much as possible. My brain knows that when the intro's done, we'll watch the episode, and when the episode's done, we'll do the screenshots, but when the screenshots are done, we'll do the review, and then we'll never have this again, and so it's just kind of sad, you know what I mean? And so I feel that's why it's taken me so many times, or I've been rambling, or this or that. It's just because we don't want it to be over, and so I'm sorry. I'm gonna get into it now. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for everybody that has supported these videos through the entire duration of the series, and without further ado, let us get into it. Okay, but why? On what charges, okay? Well, you have no evidence. Oh no, because she broke into the wing, but you took her doll, bro. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Oh no, that's not good. Oh, that's what I was afraid of. So no matter what they did, they were trapped. Oh, I don't believe that. Okay, that's interesting. I don't like this. Oh, it's somebody that's not acting calmly. Is that John? Just by how he did the claw, I was I don't know. Oh, maybe it's not. Oh no, yeah, it definitely is. Jeez, and he already took the thing off. He's so rash. What Oh, man. Yeah, that claw was a little suspicious. Oh, no, John. See, he's, like, acting so suspicious. Oh, my God. Oh, it has a little, like, lick, too. Oh, that's not nice. It has, it has consciousness. And it has a little cow lick thingy like Shirley and Rum do. That's what I'm trying to explain. Oh my gosh. Uh-oh. No, they don't talk, you idiot. It spoke. Oh, shit. You don't know shit, John. That was so stupid. Oh, no. They're not supposed to speak. Oh, no. It should have just minded its own fucking business. Oh, John, I'm so sorry. Oh, Morph Shirley just made him run for it. Good job, John, for being the distraction for this. Oh, she thinks it's cute. Ooh, there's some soot thing going on. Oh my god. Oh, nice. Whee! Distractions. Okay. Let's get the fuck out of here. Wait, what about Shirley? No. Is she there with them? Oh, John. Oh, no. Yeah. I love how Emily Co tried to defend her, though. That's cute. Oh. No. Oh, my God. Oh, no. Oh, well, they're minding their own fucking business, you know? So he sees he's worried. Oh. I do not believe in Master John. He should have not gone over there. Oh, what are you gonna do, Patrick? Oh. Oh. Even with no soot power. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, I like that. That's cute. Oh, you're the one that showed me friendship. Oh. Oh. Oh, look at them. That was nice. Okay, well, anyway. Oh, because Kate can fly. So just carry us down to the wing. Go down the chimney like Santa Claus. You know? It's fine. Uh-oh. Well, that's not good. Yeah, damn. Oh, they're laughing. Oh, boy. Okay, Edward. You don't need to be so unnecessary. Okay, let's go. Hopefully John can punch his way out of this one. Oh, look at this as the sun rises. Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, we'd rather jump than be kidnapped by you, so. Oh, Edward. Oh, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, John. Oh, he gave them a boost. Yay! Okay, but how's John getting out of this? Is John not gonna be in trouble, bro? Uh-oh, come on, Kate. No! Come on, can't Shirley do something? Oh, no! Landing! You know, at the airport, they have those beep, beep, beep. That's what they're doing. Oh, come on, Patrick! Oh, okay, she's using her sturdy farmer body, I guess. Oh, Patrick. Damn. Caw, motherfucker. That's not good. Oh, so they turned Edward into a bird? Well, okay, anyway, I'm confused. Yeah, what happened to John? Is John gonna be okay? Oh, no. Maybe Barbie will help them. Well, now you can't prove shit. Aw. Damn, oh my god. You can't do that, though. Uh-oh. Barbie was around. Oh, the Star Bearers caught him. Damn. So what you doing there, Edward? What's up? Like, what are you doing? Oh, she called Barbara. Ah, damn, Louise. All in it for give him a second chance. I don't think he's gonna banish him. Yes, but no banishment. See, Lord Grandfather's too interested in him. Damn, he's on thin fucking ice. See, but that's what I think next season will be, is that he learns that he has to be more crafty, more stealthy, that he can't just go abduct people. Like, he needs to, like, spy on Emily Coe some other way, and Kate, obviously. Oh, this is kind of nice. Like, you know, they rescued, Edward got his comeuppance, and now they're, like, living life. Yeah, what happened to John? How did he get out of there? Oh, so do they chill all day? Oh, John is okay. Oh, she made a big bird. I thought Edward was the bird. Oh, man. I love seeing at least, like, Mary Rose and Rosemary. Oh, like, actual orientation now is starting. Yeah, so this is what we skipped over, I guess. Actual orientation. Yeah. Are y'all gonna investigate? Like, what about Rum and... Oh, my gosh. Like, what about Rum and Rummy? Because it was there. Guys, because it was there. Oh, are we gonna see Rum? Oh, she's so tiny. Oh. Into the bow, that's so smart. Okay. Are we gonna go rescue them, sis? Like, how long is she gonna be in the dungeon for? No, this is like the very first episode. You're kidding me. Oh my god. Oh, that's the room that Barbara was in the very first episode. Oh my god. Well, at least we'll find out what's going on in there sometime. Maybe it's like to test the maximum limits of your sit power or something, you know? Because it doesn't seem to be secret. They're showing the kids. Oh no, and now it's the new kids. Right. Yep, these kids. This is like the next generation. It starts how it began. Oh no. Well, Lord Grandfather's alone for once, bro. Well. Oh, that was pretty cool. No, I don't want it to be over. I don't want that. Rum. Please. Oh yeah, Rummy's there. Oh my god. They're all singing the song. Oh, they're all singing. But wait, are they they're not brainwashed again, are they? Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, see, they don't sing for the sake of the Shadows family because they don't. Yeah, they won't sing it because they don't. Oh my god, that was pretty cool. I did like that. That was pretty cool. I feel like that Edward kidnapping Kate was over as soon as it began almost. But I do feel like that ended off on kind of like a good note. Like there was victory. Edward got his comeuppance, which I'm sure we wanted to see temporarily. I think they could connect it to season 2, even though I don't know the detail of the season 2 stuff. I feel like that if it was just people were saying, oh, Edward used to be smarter than this, he used to do this, this, and that, right? Like, whatever this, and that, like, really was, like, he can still be smart, right? Now he'll just be smart because he learned from his mistakes. All right, everybody, let us get into the review. And before we get into the actual episode, I guess I just want to give an overall of my thoughts. Like, how am I feeling? How do I feel about all that? And it's sort of weird because I have really put off doing this video. I'm sure that y'all can tell by the time that it's come out. Well, to be fair, I was at the cottage on the weekend, but I was supposed to record this yesterday, and then I didn't. And so now it's Tuesday, and I'm recording it, or at least I'm trying to. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, why is it so hard for me? Is it just like one of those, like, if you do it, then it's all over, you know, like one of those things, like avoiding it until the final possible second so you can savor that final moment? Or is it because I didn't like it? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I'm struggling with. Is it because I didn't like it, or is it because, like, I don't want to say goodbye? And I feel like that the answer is kind of somewhere in the middle. I didn't hate it. I don't think it was necessarily as strong as the rest of the season, but, like, I'm not mad. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not like, oh my god, they ruined the anime. Like, this is definitely above, like, Promise Neverland PowerPoint presentation. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as the Promise Neverland and season 2. It's actually like a pretty like decent ending. Like it's good. It's good. I should say good. Decent sounds like it's like, 5 out of 10. It's like a 7 out of 10, but it's like a 7 in like a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, like rest of a season. And that just kind of, I don't know, that just kind of sits in a weird way with me because I'm not a very like critical person in the sense that I'm gonna rip something to shreds, And, like, that's fine if, like, other channels, like, do stuff like that. It's just not really something that I do most of the time because I personally only cover, like, things that I really, really like. Like, I could do criticism videos about how much I, don't like this episode of My Hero Academia, but I really don't. And I may be critical in other ways, and I think that I'm still, like, critical, but I'm not, like ripping stuff apart like a critic, I guess you could say. Like, there's a difference between being critical in an analysis in a review versus being like a critic. And so I think that that's a little bit different. And so yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, I don't know, like am I being too hard on the show? Like, like a 7 out of 10 is still good. It's just like, it seems like they wanted to do this big, like massive, like life-changing ending because as far as I know, the manga kind of went into like exposition zone and they wanted to end off the anime with a bang. Like that's why they did this anime only ending. And I'm like, but was this a bang though? Like it was a bang in some ways, but like was this necessary? I guess that's what I should say is that I have seen it, but I don't think that it was necessary even though I haven't seen the alternative of what we would have gotten, if that makes sense. I do really like the very end of this episode in terms of like they're all singing the song and then the teacup breaks and then Emily, Co, and Kate, like, they don't, like, sing the end of the song, and it's a representation of how they're not doing it for the sake of, like, the Shadows family, but they're doing it for the sake of, like, their found family within the Shadows family. Like, that was a nice little scene, but, like, that could have been the ending still. So I guess what I should say is that I like, the ending half of this episode, but do I think that the Edward kidnapping part was necessary? I don't think so. I don't think that it was. I think that they could have somehow ended it on the same kind of note, because I like how it ended. I guess that's, I need to like rephrase this whole thing, is that I like how it ended, but I don't like the Edward kidnapping arc in terms of achieving this moment, if that makes sense. I think that that's like a better way to explain it, and like I'm just gonna keep my entire like thought process right here in, but that I think is what I've settled on, is that I like how it wrapped up. Like I like the themes, we're doing good with the themes, but I don't necessarily know if like Emily, Co being kidnapped was like the way to do it. Like they still could have done that, because the vibe I'm getting is like if they do a second season, it's like, okay, well now we're rebelling against the house, like that's gonna be the whole thing, right? Like I always thought that it would have been fine if they just ended it on that sort of like they broke everyone's brainwashing, right? That took a couple episodes, and then the final episode was just like, cementing their resolve to rebel. It didn't need to be all kidnappy. I don't know. It was cool. Like there was some cool stuff going on, but I'm just kind of torn on it. And I don't know, would I have this opinion if I didn't read the Reddit and didn't know how the manga readers felt about it? I don't know if I would or not. And so that's kind of like not the bad part, obviously that's my choice, but I do like to see what other people are saying, especially because, like, my comments are a limited scope. It's not like I have, like, hundreds of thousands or even tens of thousands of people watching these, right? And so I like to look elsewhere. I like to look on our anime, and I like to look on the Reddit, and I'm in the Shadows House Discord server, and so I'm just like, well, would I have this opinion if I didn't know that anything was changed? And I know that this may be a weaker alternative compared to what happened. Maybe that's why I feel that way. But anyway, let's just get into the episode now. I just needed to get all my little thoughts out there. So, we have Edward, Kate, and Emily, Co, obviously. I skipped basically the first section that was the same as last episode. That's something else I noticed, is they did reuse a lot of animation this episode compared to, like, previous ones. Like, they did that whole thing at the front. They did, like, John punching for Kate to fly again. Like, they showed that same footage again. And they showed the same footage of all the nobles again. But that, I think, had, like, a narrative purpose to show that they're just doing basically the exact same shit all the time. You know what I mean? Like, you had the same thing with Sophie, like, I don't know, like, licking her napkin of the soot and stuff. Like, I think that that's fair, because that's, like, ooh, like, that's a nice little, like, parallel or symbolism that, like, literally, like, nothing has changed. Like, this is what the nobles do all day, but I don't know, that's something else that I noticed too. But anyway, and so Edward is talking to them, and so it's revealed that obviously, like, the goal was Kate, and so we already knew that, but it's revealed to Kate that the goal was Kate. It had nothing to do with Emily Co. Come morning, I'll bring you before Lord Grandfather and expose you as a malcontent and enemy of Shadow's house. And so then he talks about, oh yes, I'll rise to the third floor, my long cherished wish. And so I do wonder if this kind of like blows the theory up about Edward being part of like some sort of resistance, because I do feel like that my theory could still be correct, that the reason why he's going after Kate is to basically be like, see, Lord Grandfather, I find the traitors for you, I'm a good guy, and then he'll just usurp him and take over. Like, you know what I mean? Because all that like Edward's New World stuff like never got explained, which was a little bit like, right? And so I feel like that maybe the theory is still alive, but at the same time, like, his behavior in some of these scenes, I'm like, nah, I don't know if this theory's alive anymore. And so I still think, though, like, that's a good way, because if you're like, oh, hey, you know, I sussed out a traitor for you, I would never betray you, like, look at my loyalty, and then betray Lord Grandfather and take his position, like, I don't know, like, that makes sense to me. But I wonder, like, could his motivation to get to third floor be something else? Because they're already unified, but it seems like that the third floor nobles are totally body snatched, where their dolls don't need to be dolls anymore. Like, I'm guessing with Edward, his doll, like, Ed still has doll duties, and so even though they're unified, they're still body snatched. You know what I mean? And so, like, Shadow Edward cannot, like, you know, move about because doll Edward still has duties to do. So I wonder if the reason why he wants to go to third floor, like, if my theory is incorrect about him wanting to make a new world where dolls and their shadows are partners, as opposed to, like, the body snatch. Like, what if he wants to get to third floor so he gets rid of Ed? Like, that's so sad. Like, if that's Edward's motivation, like, the Shadow's motivation for all of this. Like, Ed wants to make the new world, but Edward, but wouldn't you know that? Aren't you sharing your thoughts together at this point? Like, how does this, anyway? If you think you'll get away with this by not answering, you are mistaken. Even if you are not a malcontent, I can accuse you of trying to break the rules, or I guess breaking the rules. She broke the rules, sis. After all, I found you dressed like this and Lord Grandfather's wing. Kate is here to save Emily Co., whom you abducted. Do you truly think he would believe you? I'm an adult and you're but a child. It's obvious which one Lord Grandfather would believe. And I think that that's actually interesting. And so this is what I mean. The kidnapping arc, kind of meh. But like the subtext here, I think is kind of interesting, just because you have all of this like child versus adult stuff going on in this like section a lot. Like you have like, oh, this is how adults like their tea, and how I talked about last week how that could be some sort of metaphor, like some sort of overall metaphor for like the adult world and its cutthroat and like no one's friends and like all that stuff that I talked about, I think last week, yeah. And so now you also have this like, you know, I'm the adult, you're the child, no one would believe you. And there's like some like nefarious undertones, like, oh, this is already nefarious, don't get me wrong, but like if you put that in like a modern context, that's a very like raw, emotional, and like dark thing to say, you know, that like no one would believe you, it's obvious who we would believe. So I think that that's interesting if we do like go into like those themes. Like there's definitely some like abuse undertones, or you could go even further with that, obviously, but like I think that that's kind of interesting, like as a commentary almost, especially, you know, like I know that this isn't really like connected to this obviously, but when I first like saw this, it kind of reminded me of like Me Too and stuff like that, like the fact that he's like, oh yeah, well it's obvious, you know, who he would believe, like you're a child, no one would believe you. Like that's a very like raw theme, and so I don't know how it'll connect to anything else per se, but I don't know, like there's just a lot that you can kind of unpack with that. And I think like the more like the less like dark one, but still pretty dark, like kids are over here in slavery, so it's still pretty dark, you know what I mean, like the kids are enslaved, like we are getting dark, but I think that like, you know, to put that theme into like a modern context, like even though obviously the people in the Shadows family are not related, it's kind of like you need to be what your parents or what your family legacy will mold you to be, and anything outside of the norm will be discarded. Like if you want to break the norm, you will be discarded. And so that's also very interesting too, because you could say like this is a, you know, a metaphor for society, like if society will discard you, you know, if you like step out of line and stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that you could kind of correlate to But I think given the fact that there are kids and adults, like, I think that it would make more sense to me for it to be about, like, your actual family expectations and stuff like that, like who your family, like, tries to mold you into versus who you want to be, and, you know, something like that. I mean, you could say, too, like, kids rebelling against society, like, that's not exactly, yeah, and so either way, it could be either one, but I think that there's something more personal about the family one for a lot of people, as opposed to, like, the greater society as a whole one, you know? And so, yeah, so Edward basically says, like, now they're just gonna wait until Lord Grandfather wakes up, and so then he says, say your prayers, it's all over for you. And I do really like the composition of this shot. Like, I think that that's, like, I don't know, there's just something about it, like him looking back at them and then seeing Kate, like, basically, like, shrouded in darkness and Emilyco still sitting down. Like, I think that it's interesting too how they're both behind the piano still. Like, it's I don't know, it's just, like, it brings everything together because you have all those scenes with, like, Edward playing the piano and stuff. But yeah, it was just interesting. Like, I liked the scene composition here and how you can see the sunlight, like, the sun rising and everything like that. So then you have John coming through, and you can immediately tell it's John because he, like, gets nervous really, really quickly when things, like, don't start going, you know what I mean? Like, when the dolls don't open the door immediately, and he also obviously takes off the veil, but that's how I knew that it was John right away, and he obviously still has the little Kate piece over here. But I thought that this was interesting just because, like, I guess John was necessary for the plot. It does fit into his character, but I wonder why, like, what was the conversation between him and Sean in terms of stopping him, right? Because he did look back at the door, and that sort of implied to me, like, I thought that he saw Shirley's morph, because Shirley's morph was, like, running around and obviously got to this hallway somehow. I thought that that's what he was seeing, but instead it seems like he looked back because he really wanted to go. But Sean never, like, says, like, oh yeah, like, that's, like, Master John, like, we had to go to the Veil Doll's, like, closet to get a robe, you know? And I don't know, like, it was just kind of weird that they didn't touch on, like, how he actually, not how he got in there, because it makes sense, but how the others let him. I think that that would have been interesting, because obviously he's wearing the robe, and so it's not like he just made a run for it, and Sean couldn't stop him. Like, it was, like, calculated. So what was the thought process in terms of letting John get over here, I guess? And so anyway, then you have John trying to look around, and then we finally see morph Shirley, and you can even tell even more so that it's Shirley, because now you can see, like, the little cowlick that they both used to have, or I guess still have, because they're alive, you know? And so John is like, what the fuck, right? And so you see that it curtsies, right? And so it would be interesting if he had remembered or, like, picked up on it, right? But he's like, go away, you creepy little thing. But we have to remember that John did not have as much contact with Shirley as, say, Sean and Emilyco did. And I'm surprised that Emilyco didn't realize it either, to be honest, but I feel like that it's fine for John not to have, like, gotten it. Like, I think that the fact that Emilyco didn't notice either, I mean, they were in, like, a high, you know, a high intensity situation, though, so they have an excuse. Now Kate is starting to think on it and be like, could it be, you know, at the end of this episode? And so, yeah, I think that John's reaction was funny. And so, yeah, so she takes him to Edward's room, and so he thinks that it's a trap. Like, who would fall for that? But then, obviously, we have these two going down the hallway and helping Edward do his nonsense. That means there are two intruders, right? So they went all the way back down to the carts and saw John's cart as well and was like, oh, fuck, right? Like, it's not just Kate, it's also John, right? And so what's interesting is that they actually turn into shadow form right here in order to, I guess, use their soot power, like, in case they need to, because the soot power cannot be used, right? Like, that's the whole thing. The soot power can't be used when you're a doll, right? And so, yeah, they both change, and I guess John didn't see them change, or I guess we're not thinking about that right now, because there's two instances of this happening, right? Firstly, there's the instance of this, and then later, Edward uses his, like, soot power to, like, make Kate, like, get a headache and everything, but, like, it's not like his shadow is a rat, right? They don't know about the unification process yet, and so I think what's interesting is that John was over here, but it's possible that, like, they just walked down the hallway, so he didn't see this happen. He only saw, aw, shit, like, the shadows are awake, right? He didn't see them transform, but in the case of Edward, that should be, like, a clue that maybe the characters clue in on in season 2, if we get a season 2. the fact that somehow soot power was used despite the fact that Shadow Edward had been nowhere to be seen, because they don't know that they're sharing the same body and stuff, right? So then over here we see John fucking up by talking, and John also puts on like a high-pitched voice during this scene, so what I'm assuming is that this is like kind of soft confirmation that all the veiled dolls are women or like girls, whereas the male dolls that are discarded seem to be the ones, we actually get a closer look at them this episode. They are the ones shoveling the coal. And so it seems like that was correct. Like, I remember thinking that all the way back, like at the very beginning, like of the show, is that the men were the ones like driving the train and like shoveling the coal and all that stuff, because you do see, when you see them, it is a more masculine body typed, but yet they are still veiled and everything. And so I think that that's just a little interesting thing to note. And so then they say, it spoke, right? And so it's not supposed to do that, but that could be important for like another time, you know what I mean? Like that could be important in the future, like somehow, like knowing that veiled dolls are not supposed to speak, even like outside of the children's wing, if that makes sense. Like they're never allowed to speak. And that also kind of leads into what Rum's doing, because Rum is a veiled doll, but it seems like that she has probably retained her memory, which is really good, because I had this whole theory about incognito Rum, where Rum would basically pretend to be a veiled doll, like the spy on the inside, right? And then like feed information back to Emily Co and everything. So I think that that's really interesting. I do like where they're going with that. I mean, that was probably in the manga to begin with and everything, but it does seem like Rum and Shirley are going to be around and probably be a key part in the resistance and all that stuff. And so yeah, this basically the veiled dolls not being able to speak could be important later. And so then we see that John gets attacked by one of the birds, obviously. And so yeah, so he probably didn't notice the transformation or anything like that. Like he probably didn't see them until they came around the corner. So at first I thought this was John, but I guess what happened is that Morph Shirley knocked on the door and Ed was like, what is happening? Like nobody's out there. What the fuck was that? Right? But then that's how they got in. And so what was interesting is they seemed to notice, right? They seemed to notice Morph Shirley, and then Morph Shirley actually bows this time instead of doing the curtsy, and I wonder if that could be like one of those things, because Emily Co did that. Like Emily Co always bowed that way instead of doing like the proper curtsy and everything. So I wonder if that's why, or maybe she's like, oh man, the curtsy didn't work before, let me try something else. Like, you know what I mean? Let's see if they'll remember us or something like that. And so I do like how she says that it's cute, right? Like she's like, oh, it's so cute. Like she's focused on that. She doesn't say that it's gross immediately, but she doesn't notice immediately either. So meanwhile, he's just like evil monologuing to himself as always. And I do like this, because again, see, this is what I mean by like the themes were on point, but like I don't know about this arc. Like look at this symbolism, right? You have Kate in this grand chair, and then you have Emily Co in a chair with like no backing, like she's basically on a stool, right? And so I really like that, because it shows that like Kate is still like, you know, the lady, like the regal one, right? Like she is like a lady of Shadow's house, right? Whereas Emily Co is still like the doll, right? And so I thought that that was a really interesting thing about like this, is that you still see their different like social status in the chairs that they sit on. So again, we just have more like monologuing from him. It's really like nothing, you know what I mean? He's just talking evilly, unless it's beyond foolish to defy Shadow's house. That's the only thing, is that I sort of wonder if it's like, is that like not foreshadowing, but is that like, what do you call it, backshadowing? You know what I mean? Like, remember how we talked about that there seemed to be a person missing in the scene, like with the three of them? Like you had Ed, and then you had his two lackeys, but there was a missing space. It almost seemed as though like that missing space could have been like somebody in their group that had died, because they did say like, oh, you know, like we're the last three from our debut, right? And so they could have meant like the very first debut, like originally, that they lost two people during that, and like that like still made him sad or something, you know what I mean? That still makes him sad to this day. But I always saw it more as somebody has recently fallen or gotten caught or like something like that. And so I wonder like if that like other person, if they defied Shadow's house, and that maybe like that's why Ed's doing all this. It's not even like the new world where the dolls and the shadows just stay unified instead of body snatched. Maybe it's not even that. He wants to get to the highest floor so he can, like, maybe avenge his friend, or, like, I don't know, maybe, like, his friend is still around somewhere and just, like, a veiled doll or something. And so maybe, like, he could... how do you call it? Like, he could pardon his friend, or like ask Lord Grandfather to give his friend a second chance, right? Like, that could be something. And so I wonder, like, I know that this could just be like, oh, it's beyond foolish, but like, I wonder if they could know this as if the reason why one of them are missing are because that person, like, defied Shadow's house, basically, is what I'm getting at. Like, I wonder if he knows firsthand because his friend was, like punished so severely. Like, it could be something like that, like that they were sentenced to death, you know, like, for this treason. And so maybe that's even why he decided to do all this, because he knows for certain how malcontents are dealt with, because maybe his friend was a malcontent, you know, and so he knows that this is an easy way to victory, because maybe one of the third floor lords used this exact same trick, not this exact same trick, but like a similar trick in order to rise up. Like, think about Ryan. Let's pretend. Say that Ryan rats out Ed's friend, right? And so then Ryan gets to the third floor. Let's just pretend it's Ryan. I mean, it probably was Ryan. Like, Ryan is kind of like the asshole of all of them, right? And so what if after that, Ed resolved, like, hey, like, I need to get to the third floor to, like, avenge my friend and get rid of all of the other lords on the third floor and all of that stuff. So what if he knew that, like, a certain way to rise up it would be to catch a malcontent because of his friend being caught by one of the people that rose to the third floor. So then he says, your last cup of tea has gone cold. Oh, my bad, you can't drink it in your present state. And so I think that that was interesting, because if the tea was like a metaphor for adulthood and all of that stuff, it's almost a deeper meaning where it's like you can't drink the tea because you have not given up your foolish, childish mindset, right? Like, they're still, like, thinking of this, like, optimistic, like, we'll, you know, escape and save the day mindset. Like, I think that Ed knows that just based on how Emily Co was acting, that they have this, like, I won't give up mindset. So he's basically saying you can't drink the tea in your present state because your current state of mind is basically to still, like, believe in, like, your childish wishes and dreams of escaping, or by being believed by Lord Grandfather. Like, that's a childish, like, optimistic hope. Like, that's how it could be. And so then you see the soot trail, and so I think that this is Kate. Like, she's the one doing this. And so I like the metaphor here about her grabbing the teacup and then basically smashing it. They, like, throw it at him. I don't think that I caught that very well, but it's almost like how Rolly broke the teacup and now Kate is also breaking the teacup. Like, it kind of represents their resolve to fight against the adults if the adults are the tea metaphor, right? Actually, we do see it. Okay, so yeah. And so then, obviously, the teacup goes flying. So it's almost like throwing back, you know, this idea of adulthood back in his face, or how they'll have to conform and grow up and all that stuff. Like, they don't need the tea. They don't need to be the cutthroat adults like he is, right? And so then he actually says, what the, right? And so I don't think that he saw Morph Shirley. I think that his head was still covered. He didn't know what hit him, right? And so if he saw it, that would probably be really bad. But I am interested to see what will happen when they do find out that Morph Shirley still exists, because I do think that one day she will re-manifest. And then what the fuck do you do? You know? I guess you just let her come back. And so I love this. I love how Emily Co saw a veiled doll running down the hallway in John's shoes. I'm pretty sure still. And she's just like, no, nobody's getting through me, right? Like, she's ready to defend Kate. And I thought that that was so cute. And I love Emily Co's, like, angry eyebrows in the past couple scenes right here. And so, yeah, then obviously it's John. We see John more clearly than before now. And so I thought that that was pretty funny to, like, see him in the robe, I guess, you know, like, in the same veiled doll, like, clothing and everything, because he's such, like, punch stuff, and now he's, like, he's wearing a dress and he's rocking it, you know? It gives me those, like, Ruby Volume 2 vibes when, like, John, like, came to the dance in a dress, but it was, like, it wasn't a joke because he was in the dress, but it was a joke because of how much he rocked the dress, like, you know what I mean? As opposed to like, oh, like men wearing dresses, that's funny. It's more like, oh, like John kept his promise and like wore the dress and he's rocking it. Like that's so cool. Like that's how I sort of feel about, and they're both called John. Oh my god, they're just called John differently, like Jean as opposed to John, right? And so, oh, I just realized that. Anyway, I'm getting like so distracted. What am I talking about? Right, that he's like rocking the veiled doll outfit and he can still punch in the veiled doll outfit. I just think that that's pretty nice. Anyway, but now John would like some help because John is being chased too. There's people running after them on the left, people running after John on the right, you know, like we gotta go. And so Shirley then takes them to a tower and I'm like, sis, like have you just been exploring? They must be planning like some sort of like rebellion type thing because like, you know, Shirley has mapped out this whole area just in case, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that that was nice that they recognize that she's on her side. And again, I like the narrative theme of that because think about what I said last week. I said it would be really interesting if Rum and Shirley came to help because that is the only group that Emily Co has not gotten help yet, like from in this kidnapping arc, right? Like Louise helped, Patrick helped, John helped, right? Everybody else helped Kate except Shirley and Rum. And so now to, you know, wrap it all together with them being the final pair to help them, like how Emily Co tried to help them during the debut, like, chef's kiss. I love the themes of that. That was really nice. And so back over here, we have Ricky, Patrick, and Sean, and Patrick's kind of feeling bad about himself. Like, he's kind of throwing a pity party for himself. No, I believe he went to the other wing to save Mistress Kate. And so I'm like, sis, okay, so they were looking for John, but, like, he somehow, like, lost him. You know what I mean? He somehow lost John. I don't know how. Of all the harebrained ideas, let's hope he doesn't do more harm than good. And so it's good that they acknowledge that he escaped, but I'm like, sis, how did this happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how did he lose him? One of Louise and Lou, they were weary and returned to their rooms. You're no help at all. They should be back by now if it all went as planned. And so you see that Patrick is getting, like, really, like, stressed. I can't tell if he's emitting soot, because, like, my monitor sometimes is just a little, you know what I mean? Just a little dark. Maybe you guys can see. No, I don't think that he is, but he is upset still, obviously. This is most worrisome. I'm sorry it's causing you such concern. However, I believe in Master John. He will return with those two. And so, but then Edward will no doubt, and so then, obviously, that's, Patrick talking, and then Ricky comes in with, that will be Patrick's cue to spring into action. I thought that that was kind of sweet, just because it seems like he's trying to give Patrick something to do, you know, because everyone else has all this fancy soot power, meanwhile, Patrick is just, like, you know, brooding, I guess. How can Patrick stop him? Oh no, it's just apologies for being so incompetent, right? So Ricky was just trying to like motivate him, right? And then he just got sad because he has no soap power. And so I like how they look at each other and they're sort of just like, oh, like, you know, I feel bad for the guy. And so I really like this scene though. Master Patrick, I think your desire to save your friends is second to none. Your greatest power is your brave and beautiful heart. And I thought that was so nice. And so I think that actually he may be smiling during the scene. Again, it's kind of hard to tell. And then he says, if so, it's because of you. During the debut, you tearfully pled with John and Sean to take care of Patrick. So I think that he told him about this, obviously, or maybe he heard it from John and Sean. But anyway, we get a little blush from Ricky right here. And Master Patrick, oh, okay, so yeah, he's just like, oh, Master Patrick. Like, that's, I think, sort of the vibe. And so I really liked this scene between them. I do wonder what Patrick's soot power will be, just because, again, he's the only person that doesn't have one, and now he knows, you know what I mean? He knows that everyone else has one, and he's supposed to have one, but he hasn't developed it yet, obviously. And I do think that it's, like, really interesting just to see Patrick care so much, because obviously, like, he cares a lot about Emily Co. It seems like there's, like, some romantic stuff going on, and so now to, like, have this scene where he's almost maybe jealous of John. Like, he's jealous of the fact that John can just go anywhere and, like, you know, punch everything, but he can't do that to save the girl that he loves, which is Emily Co. Like, obviously, John is doing that to save Kate and Emily Co., right? But, like, he wants to be the knight in shining armor, I think, but he can't be, and I'm sure sure that, like, he struggles with that a little bit. So this was pretty cool. We have the little Rapunzel tower, as I call it over here, and then obviously it seems like Shirley is trying to say for them to jump. And now it's interesting because the reason why Shirley is suggesting this is because Shirley and Rum were there, right, during this happening in the debut. Like, it knows that this is Kate's soot power. So again, that was another thing to point to this being Shirley and Rum. And I think Kate realizes that later. And so, yeah, they're all on the roof, and so you have Edward, and then obviously the shadow forms of his two lackeys over here. And so I'm still a little unsure about what he can do. He just seemed to do some general soot thorn thing, similar to what Kate did. Like, Kate did that too, to, like, make the teacup go wee. And so it's all over for you, you have defied Shadow's house and entered this wing without permission. And so this goes back to, like, the Uno reverse card, I guess I'll call it, because Edward enters the children's wing later on. And so I think that that's, like, really, really good, because they explain, like, hey, even though you have dominion over the children's wing, like, you're in charge, you still need permission to come over here. You can't just, like, come over here as you please, right? And so he, like, got caught, like, by his own rules and everything. And so I really like this from John. Like, John's like, not before you trespassed in the children's wing, right? So if they caught him back then, right, they all know that he trespassed the first time. And so if they caught him then, he would be in trouble. But now, like, that sets up him being caught because he trespassed a second time when he went to chase them. And I think that's really, really good. So again, we get this. Who is going to believe your word over mine? And then he starts laughing, obviously. Kate, take Emily Co. and jump. What about you, John? Just go already. What are you still flapping your gums about? Right, and so this, you could say, makes Edward, like, incompetent, because, you know, he's like, oh, you know, like, he should have actually listened to what John was saying, and then he could have stopped them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when the heroes plan right in front of the villains, and the villains just, like, keep being, you know, arrogant, I guess, like, oh, why are you still flapping your gums? But, like, he does recognize that they're gonna jump. He just tells them that they'll never make it and they'll just fall to their death. So that's really where his hubris comes into play, I guess you could say. I love this shot. Like, I love, like, the sun is rising and, you know, she takes her hand and there's the sunlight and, like, you know, I just love this. Like, this, oh my god, what a beautiful shot. This is great. So then we have Kate's wings manifesting, and I thought that was great. And so, yeah, see, this is why Edward doesn't care about what John's saying. Because he says, your soot power will not take you that far. And then she jumps anyway. And so that's the whole thing. So it is understandable why Edward didn't try to, like, stop them. Because it was either, like, they're gonna get caught anyway, or they're gonna jump and plunge to their death. Like, he didn't think that there was a third option, and so he didn't see a reason to stop them when John basically, like, said the plan aloud, right? A fitting end for a foolish malcontent. That's what you think, and so I really like this. And so we see John, he is emitting, like, a lot of, like, soot explosion, and he's basically doing so he can send an explosion over to Kate and Emily Co. in order to kind of give them, like, a boost. And I really like that. John is not about to let Kate perish, and I thought that that was pretty cool. And so now his punch is, like, helping, like, make them float. And so it's interesting that he saved Ricky, right, like, by punching the boulder, and now he's punching in, like, the same way, but is saving them instead. And so I just thought that that was a nice little callback to, like, his powers and stuff. Like, it's giving them, like, a little bit of a boost. Don't you ever estimate John and Company. I thought that John and Company was kind of a weird way to say it. Like, I thought that that was kind of strange, but anyway, I'll let that go. Then we have Kate and Emily Co. flying over to the children's wing. We might not make it. Mistress Kate, please forgive me. Having to hold on to me is a terrible burden for you and Master John. And so I feel like that, again, it was more metaphorical than that. It was that, like, I got caught, you had to save me, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's not, like, literally holding on, but it's like, you know, I'm always getting in trouble, and now, like, you guys are carrying the burden of me not being careful and not getting kidnapped. Like, I think that that's his thought process, but she says, hey, like, there's no time for that. You know what I mean? Like, that self-deprecation, like, and all of that stuff. And then we see the bird. So this is a massive soot bird that carried both John and Edward over to the children's wing, and so now we know that she can make big ones as well. And so now they're all outside the gated area to Lord Grandfather's wing, and they're like, oh, like, I guess something did go wrong, but then they see the bird, and then they also see, obviously, Kate and Emily Co. right here, and so they basically, like, I said it in my reaction, they're like, beep, 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 they're like, you know, landing pad for them, they're like, over here, and so I really like this scene because because even though they just have this conversation about how Emily Co is like always burdening them, right? Like, I love that Emily Co's actually now the one to save Kate, and so while Kate has advantage in the air, you could say, Emily Co has advantage when it comes to like the ground. And so like, look at her carry her and like scale down the roof and all of that stuff. I am wondering though if my farmer theory is incorrect, because like everything is pointed to me to farmer, but now I look at that and I'm like, that's not farmer. That's like, I don't even know, like what profession would need to slide down the mountain? You know what I mean? Like maybe a hunter or something. I'm trying to think of something that would be related to the like the poverty angle that I'm going for, which is like, oh, Emily Co doesn't know how to read because she was from a like poor family, and I think the reason why she like has all of these different traits is because it was probably like a farmer. That's why she has this like sturdy body. But I'm like, but this kind of goes beyond that, and so I don't really know. Like I literally cannot think of anything where you would have to do that other than like maybe if you were hunting or something like that. But like I'm drawing like the biggest blank in terms of like how this would be farm related. So maybe it's foreshadowing towards something else, but I just don't have like the scope yet to understand it. So what I thought was funny about this scene is that you have both Ricky and Sean grabbing the girls while Master Patrick's over there. And I thought what was interesting about that is that you actually see that the doll kind of corresponds with who is in love with like the characters. Kate falls on top of Sean, I think, and it's interesting because John is the one who loves Kate, but Sean is the one who like fell on her, right? You know what I mean? Or like, I guess Kate fell on him, I guess I should say. But anyway, you guys get it, you know? Like, obviously, John is the one in love, but Sean is the one who broke her fall. On the other side, like, Ricky broke the fall for Emily Co, and Patrick's the one that loves her. So I think that that was a nice little boop, because you could have had it so Patrick, like, you know, tried to, like, be the cushion for her fall, but instead it was his doll. And so I think that's a nice little parallel there, that both of the dolls that aren't in love with the person that had fallen upon them are connected to the Shadow Master that does actually love them. That was so confusing. I hope that y'all know what I mean. So then they make a run for it, and they start talking about, like, where John is, and, like, you see Sean's just, like, right here. Sean's just like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, I hope that he's not trapped over there, because that may not be good. But even if he was, like, even if John was trapped over there, I feel like that it would just be more evident, because like they found Edward in the children's wing anyway, so if John was over there, like they could have basically been like, hey, yeah, he abducted me, you know what I mean, what was I supposed to do? And so I feel like that they could have switched it around on him even if he didn't find his way back. And so what's interesting right here is that it seems like that Edward is using his power on Kate, like the, you know, the sound power, and then we see Edward coming from around the corner. And so I think that it would be interesting if they remember this in the future, because the only way for Edward to be able to do this would have been like Shadow Edward. But here's the thing, they don't know about Shadow Edward's specific powers, like they don't know about his powers, but I think that they may think back on like, oh, you know, like when Edward was wait, no, he transformed right in front of them, didn't he? Wait, whoa. I was gonna say, wait. Okay, hold on a second. I was gonna say that this is probably leading towards, like, the fact that the secret will be out, because they'll think back on this moment and they'll be like, how did Edward use his music power, like his power of pitch, when he was like regular, you know what I mean, when he was in doll form, because they would still think that the shadow and the doll are separate people. But now I just realized that Kate and Emily Co saw him transform right in front of their eyes, right? Because he was like, Kate, like his arms were out like this and he was transforming back to reveal his face. So doesn't that mean that Kate and Emily Co know about the unification secret and the body snatching, or shouldn't they? They'll probably talk about that next season. But I thought that it was going to be this moment that gave them away. But it may not even have been this moment. It may have been Edward literally doing it right in front. Like, I thought that they would think on this moment and be like, oh, how did Edward do that? That's Edward's power, but he was a doll when he was here. How did he do that? Like, I thought that that's the thought process they were going to go down. But now I realize he did it in front of them. Right? I think that Emily Co, her eyes weren't covered, and Kate's eyes weren't covered, so they know that he was the one doing it. So they must know that he's unified. Guys, I need help. Somebody help me. Anyway, so yeah, that's, I don't know about all of that. But anyways, so then Patrick says, this is the children's wing. We won't let you just do as you please. So I do like that, like, Edward is basically being fought off by Patrick. Like, everybody has been involved in helping to fight off Edward. John, Louise, obviously. Louise is coming in with the Star Bears in a minute. And now Patrick, who was useless, right, is now using his words. Because that's basically, you know, what Ricky said earlier. He was like, yeah, like, you have a brave heart. Like, that's your true power. So, like, you know, the true power of Patrick is words. Is basically yelling at people. That's how I think. Anyway, if you wish to survive here in Shadow's house, dispense with this inane sense of friendship. So again, could this be foreshadowing to the fact that the reason why Edward is so warped the way he is because he had lost one of his friends? And could this be almost a representation of it? Because look, you have Ricky, Patrick, missing space, and then you have Sean again, right? Because John isn't there. Just like that scene when you had that absence between them, like, all in the garden, and there was an empty spot between him and his two lackeys. Like, could the reason why he thinks like this be because one of his friends was disposed of after the debut for being caught? And then Edward's monologuing gets him in trouble, right? What exactly does that mean? And so what I love about Barbara here is her tone is, like, impeccable. Like, she's not yelling. She's not aggressive like Barbie usually is. She's very calm and, like, if a look could kill you, right? And I love that about her. And then so you have, I love this, the legs of all of the kids and then of the Star Bears. You didn't go to bed, and so I love this for Lou and Louise. Change of plans, and I love her little, like, head tilt there. I thought that was really cute. Calling Barbara was a fine idea. Now Louise is sure to be a Star Bearer, so I thought this was cute because, again, it kind of shows Louise's personality like I was talking about last week. Like, yeah, she's doing it because she's in it for herself, and I thought that was kind of funny. That's just like Louise, so she's basically saying, oh, like, or I guess Patrick is saying, like, oh, yeah, that's just like her. You know, she's doing the good thing, but also to benefit her in the future. And so I love this from Barbara, right? That's strange. You live in Lord Grandfather's, but, like, she's basically talking to him like she's 5. Like, literally, like, she's talking to Edward like he's literally 5 years old. Yet here you are in the children's way. It's kind of funny because I have this method too. So, like, instead of just, like, telling people to knock stuff off or whatever, like, in my, you know, in my Discord server or something, I always ask, and I'm like, is this, like, the appropriate channel for this conversation or whatever? Like, I ask it in the form of a question, like, just because, like, that's less aggressive, but it also kind of gets the point across. Like, you know, like, guys, stop doing that. Like, that's kind of, like, aggressive. But asking the question, making people think about it, and then them knowing the answer is no, like, that kind of reinforces for them to not do it again. Anyway, that's, like, such a random thing, but I like how she phrased it, because she's like, that's odd. You're supposed to be here, but yet you're here? What? Like, she's almost, like, feigning confusion in order to, like, get her point across, and I love that. I'm instructing them firsthand, that's my job. And so I love how they call him out on his shit, right? What sort of instruction is done at daybreak? You said I'll discard you all. How is that instruction? Yeah, I know. I love this. I love this guy. I love that we finally get to see their personalities a bit. I love, like, the little, almost like little flowers or something on the glasses compared to this guy's glasses are more plain. So again, kind of reinforcing, like, oh yeah, the lords have, like, the fancy stuff, whereas the dolls have, like, the less fancy stuff, like with the flower decoration versus the bows. We've seen that before. Even as caretaker, unauthorized entry to the children's wing is forbidden to you, right? So they just can't, like, come in here whenever they want. And that was sort of implied by the conversation earlier about him trespassing in the children's wing. Now, a lot of people probably would have gotten this a lot easier if they had explained that, because I was sort of under the impression the first time that the adults could go wherever they wanted, but it kind of makes sense why they don't. And the reason why it makes sense is because they're all unified, or at least it seems like that all the adults are unified, and so you stay in the children's wing until you're unified, and then you need special permission so somebody just doesn't see you, you know, transforming in the middle of the foyer and the big secret is, like, revealed and stuff. So it actually does make sense why they need permission both ways. I'm pretty sure that that's probably the reason. And so they're all waiting for him at the end of the hallway because he's been caught out. And so I love her sass, her tone. Oh, I love this. This is all thanks to you. You so kindly instructed us to carefully carefully watch over this wing every day that allowed us to expose your serious violations. So she's basically like throwing it back in his face that he's the one to be requested, like he's the one who put them all on Night's Watch. He's the one who requested, like, if a mouse moves, I want to fucking hear about it, sis. Like we talked about last week. So now she's throwing it in his face, and look at this expression. I love this. And now she's just smiling. We are so very grateful. Like that little like smugness. I love her. She's so great. And like, look at him. He's just resigned himself to his fate. He's just so done. So then in this scene, we have all of the nobles doing what they usually do. And again, could it be reused footage? Maybe, but I also kind of like the idea that it's literally representing that they do the same stuff every day. So we have Edward apologizing, and so they all want to banish him. That's their vote. It's so funny because Ryan gives out the order, but Lord Grandfather, like, retracts it. He's like, yeah, actually, I don't want him banished. I just want him, like, sternly reprimanded. And so it, again, is very, like, indicative of Ryan, like, jumping the gun. Like, he wanted to give the order, and then Lord Grandfather would, like, agree with the order, but, like, Lord Grandfather decided to keep him around. And so he says, banished, you say, and I do think it's interesting to have, like, his face mostly in shadow, but then a little bit in the light to sort of represent, you know, like, his shadow self and his doll self. Like, I wonder what would happen. Like, how would you do that? How would you banish him? You know, like, would you make him into a, like, a veiled doll? Would you have to leave and go, like, into society or something? Like, what happens if you're banished? Because they didn't say that they were gonna kill him. They said he's gonna be banished. But, like, what would banished mean in a unified body? I don't know. You say you were instructing the children, but you entered their wing to abduct them, right? So I guess they told Barbara what was going on, and then they caught Edward in the act, right? Louise probably was like, hey, Barbara, you know, sorry to bother you, but you're right, there is something going on. Emily Coe got kidnapped, right? Like, they probably explained it to them, and then Barbie explained it to them. You know, like, it all kind of, like, went like that. You became a liability by making the Faces threat over trivial matters at the debut. So now they're like, you know, well, you did this, now we catch you doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you already did this and you were on thin ice. We weren't sure about you. Now we're definitely not sure about you. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting. Shadow's house has no use for you. So that's what Sophie says. It only means those who can be of service to Lord Grandfather. Edward is banished. As for the other two, how about demotion to the first floor? And so, again, like, what's banished? What would banished be? Like, do you have to leave the house? Do you have to ununify and then the morph is, like, disposed of or murdered while Ed would be a veiled doll? Like, what would banished be? I think it would be interesting if they just let him travel the world alone. You know what I mean? Because I wonder if it's possible that there's another catch. Because after you're unified, why don't you just run away? Right? Like, could it be possible that something in this house sustains them, right? Like that, not the bread per se, but maybe the kids could run away at this point. Like, they're ununified. But I wonder if it's like, okay, so you're an adult, you're unified, you hate it here, like, you don't want to be here anymore, why can't you just run away? Other than the booby traps and everything, like, what if they need, like, constant, like, refreshes or something? I don't know how to explain it. Constant refreshing from Lord Grandfather's, like, well of soot or something like that. And so what if the reason why they can't just leave is because otherwise they'll just, like, they'll die out there. They can't go into town and live a normal life, like, not like this, because they need to be, continuously refreshed over time. That would kind of be interesting. And so by banishing him, he would just die eventually. But then you would think, like, isn't banishment kind of dangerous? Because couldn't that person just go in and tell all the secrets of Shadow's house? Like, banishment must not just be like, we're throwing you out on the street. Like, it must be something more than that, because that, you know, like, Edward could go down there, show the people what he could do, and then they'd all be called monsters. Like, it must be, like, some sort of separation, like, maybe deunification, or, like, something even worse. Like, maybe banishment, like, to the basement or something. Like, I don't think that they'd literally let him go. I don't know. Yeah, banished from the house doesn't necessarily mean, like, literally from the house. Like, it could be banished from the family, but then, like, locked in the basement. You know, like, you're not part of the system anymore. Like, you have no more power. You're not even, like, a maid. You know what I mean? Like, you're not even a veiled doll or anything. Like, you are just literally nothing anymore. Like, you're just not even a part of the house. Like, that could be banishment while keeping people, like, in the basement. So then Lord Grandfather says, Edward, your bold and unique instruction of the children was of great interest. However, it seems you have carried it a bit too far. to all three of you, we give you the sternest of reprimands. So he basically says, like, yeah, we're not banishing them or demoting them, sorry. And I think it's interesting because I think the reason why is because Lord Grandfather is super interested in, like, Edward's mind. I think that he actually likes what Edward's doing compared to, like, the rest of the third floor, because I think the third floor doesn't want to, like, mess up their status quo, whereas, like, Lord Grandfather always wants evolution to make the house stronger. So I think it's just, like, different, and so I think that that's why, like, he still wants that, you know? Like, he still wants Edward and, like, his creativity around, whereas the other ones, I think, feel threatened by Edward's creativity. And so then we have Ryan threatening him again. You got that? This is your last chance. Yes, sir. I shall devote myself, body and soul. And I think that's funny because, again, like, that means, like, for the doll and then also, like, you know, for the morph, obviously. They all bow and then they have this conversation amongst themselves. Were we not too lenient? The potential of Shadow's house is as yet manifold. Manifold means many and various. A pipe or chamber branching into several openings. That's interesting because, like, obviously we see, like, the pipe organ and everything. And so I guess he's basically saying, like, the potential is still there. Like, Edward's potential still exists and there's something that Edward may be able to do, like, for the house as a whole. And so then they start talking. That was a close one. And yet this puts the third floor further away. Edward, you must cease your self-indulgent ways. So they're basically saying, hey, like, you know, you did all this and now you're even worse off than compared to if you didn't do it. You know what I mean? You didn't just lose and, like, now you're still at the same place you were before. You're actually lower, right? And so he says, I have not given up yet. I sense love and great hopes for me in that magnanimous judgment. So he's basically saying that, like, Lord Grandfather, like, loves him and sees hope for him. Enough hope to not banish him and instead just, like, continue on. Like, you know what I mean? He knows that Lord Grandfather's interested in him. I hereby vow to get rid of those fiendish malcontents, right? And so then they look at each other and then they just smile. They're just like, oh, that's our Edward, along with those third floor maggots, right? So he wants to get rid of the third floor too. Like, he wants to clear house and just be, like, the only one by Lord Grandfather's side. And so I think that that's interesting. Just because, like, again, some people think that this made Edward dumb, that this is a dumb plan, and in the manga, he was apparently more scheming. I don't know what he schemed. Again, like, I always try to preface, like, I don't know the specifics of it, but I just know, like, the rough general, he was scheming. He was more calculating. He did stuff in the shadows, right? And so a lot of people think that this, like, dumbed down his character and everything, or, like, we've gone from a point of no return with his character, right? I disagree, and I guess I disagree in ignorance because I haven't read the manga. However, I feel like that basically what they're going to do is say that Edward, you know, was too rash, too impulsive, and so therefore he kidnapped Emily and Kate. Now he will learn to be stealthy. He will learn to work in the shadows, and that will connect us back to whatever the fuck he does in the manga, right? And so it's not that they dumbed him down, but they kind of did probably compared to the manga trajectory. Like, I'm guessing that the manga had him working in the shadows the entire way through and maybe get more stealthy as time goes on. I don't know. Like, it's this great, like, chess match and everything. Instead, here, they're starting from a place of rashness and brute force to make him grow into a mastermind, and that could be interesting. Not necessarily better, but that could be an interesting way to go. So I don't think that it'll ruin anything, actually. Like, I think that they could, like, naturally connect it in the sense of, like, Edward just grew and he learned and now he does stuff stealthily because this is his last chance. So the stakes are actually higher now because, like, this is his last chance. If he gets caught again, he's gonna be fucked, so he really has to be stealthy this time. And then we see a glimpse into everyday life, and personally, I would have just liked this again. Like, you know, I think that this is the connect back. I think, like, this is, like, getting back into where the manga left off, basically. I do like this. I love, like, oh, Emily Coast, she's so cute, and she's saying, like, like, oh, it's hard to believe we're allowed to venture outside our rooms and it's a joy to walk by your side, right? Like, I think that that's really nice. And so then they find John, obviously. I think that they say something later, like John comes in, because they say like, oh, like what happened to Master John that's yet unknown. So this is literally like the next day or the next morning and they still don't know what happened to John yet. But yeah, like I'm assuming that this is where the manga continued, like just with them starting to be face and like living life and stuff. And you can tell that Emily Co is still not mimicking, right? And that's probably not exactly the expression that Kate has, but anyway. John hung on for dear life to the tail of Edward's soot pigeon, that is. And so it was thanks to that strange little creature, and they're just talking about this in front of, I guess Sarah and Mia don't really give a shit, right? How interesting. And so look at how, like, look at this, okay? Look at how, like, they're looking at each other, and then, like, Patrick and Ricky are just like, because obviously Patrick only has eyes for Emily Co. Whereas here you kind of have, like, this, like, little, like, oh, obviously John likes Kate and, like, all of that, like, Sean may like Emily Co. Right here, it's just, like, they, like, I don't think that Ricky likes Emily Co. I think he likes Louise, but, like, Patrick looks towards her, and that sort of sets up a nice, like, season 2 love triangle type thing. Come to think of it, where's Louise? And you actually see Louise, she doesn't give a shit about anybody else, and she's just, like, occupying her time by hanging out with Lou, and I think that that'll be interesting because, like, yes, she has good power, they have good face compatibility, but I think that what they're going to be concerned about in the future is the fact that Louise cares about her face so much that I can't see her wanting to unify in the future, right? She likes, you know, Lou to be around physically. At the same time, maybe she would be eager to do it because she could, like, you know, do her own hair all the time. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? But anyway, and so, yeah, obsessed with herself, as usual. And so I love seeing Mary Rose, and so she's like, oh, Kate, most beauteous Rose? Oh, Louise, daisy in full bloom. And I think, like, maybe, I don't think that's a daisy, though, on her outfit that Louise has. Anyway, but either way, maybe it is, I don't know. Aren't daisies the ones with the little, like, white petals? She has, like, a dandelion. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What I do like is, like, Rosemary now and Mary Rose, like, leading this. You shall learn how to lead proper lives at the manor. And I'm like, I want to know. I wish that we kind of got this instead. Like, I want to see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish, but it's so sad. You know what I mean? I wish that they had picked up here because I wanted to know all of this stuff, but hopefully there will be a season 2. I think I talked about this in my intro probably, but basically what I'm thinking is I'm gonna give it like a year or something. I'm gonna give them time to announce a season 2, you know what I mean? Let the Blu-ray sell, let them calculate the reception and all of that stuff, like let it basically sit and see if we're gonna get, like, a season 2. If after a year they don't announce shit, like, I'll probably, you know, give up. Because I think that a year is pretty standard to get renewed. Like, you guys tell me. You guys tell me how long I should wait and, like, when we will know. Because, like, it's either indefinite hiatus or, like, confirmation. Like, really, those are the two choices. Something I do like is that it seems like that Mary Rose prefers to wear pants, which again, like there's some lesbian stuff going on right here, but it seems like that she has these things on the side to kind of mimic her skirt in a way, you know what I mean? And so I kind of like that, is that she's still trying to match with Rosemary anyway, even though they clearly have like two different fashion senses. Mistress Kate, what do you suppose that thing was? What thing? That cute little creature that helped us, right? And so obviously they're still talking about Shirley. How did it know about Kate's soot power? And so now, right, we're getting into the only way it could have known is if it were there. And so Kate seems to be picking up on that because she says perhaps, and then we see the dungeon. And so I love this, here for this. And so we see more Shirley. I think that she gets smaller so she can jump through the thing, or maybe that's just the scale of the dungeon right here. So you do see that there is a box, but all we see is like a wooden bed, and then we see who is obviously Rum. Right, and so what's interesting is that she, like, turns into the bow that she used to have on her finger, right? And so what I'm assuming happened is that, like, we know that they're mimicking fairies, right? And so I'm assuming that, like, what could have happened is that, and some other people think this too, is that, with the bow, right? My whole thing was that I thought that, like, Shirley was, like, in her finger and they had partly unified and stuff, and so when she was, like, talking to the bow, she was talking to Shirley. It could still be that, like, that was my whole theory, is that they were already partly unified and didn't even know it. I still think that it could be that, like, I think that Rummy, like, there's still room for what Rummy could be, you know what I'm saying? Like, some people also, like, you know, put out some other ideas that this is, like, a totally different morph, and that maybe, like, for some reason, like, Rum has two. I did see that going around, and so that Shirley wasn't even her true partner. So when she said that, like, you know, she's not Shirley's face, she did actually mean it, because she was actually, like, because when you go into that room, there's a bunch of those little morphs on the ground, right? So do they all connect to make one big person, or is it like a fight against all the other morphs, and whoever clicks with you most is the morph that manifests into you, right? Because you see a bunch of, like, little ones and little arms in that scene with the, you know, the first scene when the kids are brought in. And so I wonder if, like, it's possible that two souls or two morphs connected to Rum, and that would kind of be interesting, like, for that to have happened, and one of them just chilled in her finger or whatever, and then the other one was obviously Shirley. What I think is more likely is that my finger unification thing is correct. Like, that's the theory that I think is right, is that my finger unification thing's correct, that Rummy was just, like, a piece of Shirley that was always, like, with her at all times, and now Shirley did not have, like, enough in her to copy, I guess, Rum's full personality, because that's the whole thing. Like, the morphs need to copy, like, your outward self and your personality. Like, she didn't have enough to manifest, right? Like, until the very, like, you know what I mean? Like, she was weak the whole time. She almost did it, but then she didn't. She died anyway. Like, that was the whole thing, is that she wasn't strong enough to manifest the personality, and so they would surely fail. And just as she was starting to, she died, right? And so what I think happened is the reason why Shirley is still with us now is because she wasn't able to copy, like, Rum as a whole, but she was able to copy, like, how Rum always used to talk to her. Like, really, like, Shirley's whole personality, like, the personality of Rummy, whether it was real or whether it was just kind of, like, you know, not hallucination, but more like an imaginary friend, right? Like, that is what Rum thought Shirley was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that, you know, in a meta kind of way, is Rum talking to Shirley. Like, talking to the bow on her finger was talking to Shirley, even if she doesn't realize it, right? Like, to me, that's what it always sort of represented, is that she couldn't talk to Shirley directly, so she talked to the bow and pretended that the bow was Shirley in a sense, right? Or maybe that the bow or her finger was really Shirley. We don't, but basically, all of that to say, the reason why now she's turning into the bow is because that is where all of Shirley's personality was. Like, all of Shirley's personality was in the bow that Rum talked to the entire time, and so that is what she mimics. She doesn't mimic Rum as a person, she mimics what Rum assigned a personality to, which was the bow. That was a little confusing, but anyway. And so then we get this final scene over again. I'm so curious to see what they do with Rum, but we'll talk more about her because we're not done yet. So we see the very first scene again. We see all these people, like we saw this in the very first scene, still don't know who these two ladies are, or at least I don't think that we do. Then we see the Star Bearers, so it seems like they're doing some Star Bearer report stuff. I think that we may have seen them at this table at the very beginning in the first episode. What we did see was Barbie and Barbara, or I guess just Barbara, like in the soot room emitting a lot of soot. And so again, that scene, this is like kind of similar to the first episode, but not like entirely page for page. This is very similar to the first episode, but in the sense that, like, it seems like these two are inventors. They made the cage for the debut, but now they have nothing to do. Or maybe, like, you know, you see the coffee cup and a bunch of ideas on the floor, so maybe he's trying to think of his next big thing. Or maybe Edward has already put in an order for the next debut, and he's like, oh, fuck. Like, how the fuck are we gonna make this? A cage was easy. This is, like, you know, crazy. And so I do like these two. I hope that we see more of them, because I really like the inventor personality. Shirley type, and we did see him a little bit. Then we see this room, and so we're not entirely sure what it is still, but we do have this lady who was the one that gave them the coffee before, and we don't know what this room's gonna be, but I feel like that because they're being shown it, I feel like that this is like the soot practice room, is that you come into this room and you try to do the maximum potential of your like soot output and see what you can do with it. Like that's what this room is for, and that's why Barbara was here in the very first episode. I thought it was something a bit more nefarious where her doll had broken and she was repairing it. I think that it makes a lot more sense for this to be some sort of like practice area where they can basically go crazy and like find the maximum level of their soot potential. And maybe that's why too, like it's only the three of them in here and Patrick's not here with them because Patrick has no power. And like at John kind of looks like his head's down, so he may be like, like, you know what I mean? He may be like, like, yeah, I can't wait to do this so I can punch that. Like, that may be his expression. I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't seem like Patrick is there. So the logical explanation of why Patrick's not there is because he hasn't unlocked power yet. So this is the power training room. Now, let's talk about the men, okay? Because now we get a better image of the men compared to when we did in episode 1. So it seems like that the veiled dolls are women, and then the veiled dolls over here are men. To me, this is a more like masculine build and everything. I wonder if like now showing like them more detailed will be like connected to the future somehow. Could this be connected to the people that were possibly discarded from Edward's group? Like what if this guy's him, you know what I mean? Like what if this guy is like that extra friend that we keep talking about? Because it seems kind of weird to focus on this one dude, you know what I mean? Like there's two dudes up there, but I don't know, there's just something about this dude, I don't know. And then we see the train going up, obviously, and somebody shoveling. Yeah, what if it's a train guy who's shoveling in the coal? Like, we don't know. And so I think that that's really interesting. And then we have some of the scenes that are reminiscent of the first episode again. So we have a soot bird. We have, again, Edward in shadow form over here, and they're all in shadow form, probably scheming and stuff. And then we have the kids. So again, this is mimicking the very first scene, but instead it's with the new generation of kids that we had seen before, that we saw a couple episodes ago. So I do think what's interesting is we do have a little statue right here of, I guess, Lord Grandfather, it's sort of implied, but I feel like we need more information about stuff like this sort of symbol. If anybody knows what it could be, do let me know, because I think that that's kind of interesting, because you have two things in his hand here. He's holding like some sort of egg, right? And then he's holding a scepter. And I think that, like, that's pretty, like, you know, normal royalty stuff to hold, but I don't know what it means. Like, for, you know, portraits and statues, like, what is the egg thing? Is it a piece of coal? What is that scepter image? What does it mean? Like, I feel like that there's imagery there, but it's just beyond my scope. And then you have Lord Grandfather alone, which is interesting, right? Because we haven't really seen him alone that much. One must never forget one's eternal gratitude to Shadow's house. And then I do like what they did here. They had his shadow almost envelop, like, his entire body. And I thought that that was cool to, like, make him seem, like, creepy and stuff like that. Make him seem creepy and like, oh, like he's the next big bad for next season. And then we have the veiled doll, who is obviously Rum. And then we also have Shirley there as well, but it's weird, you can't see her bow on this one. I wonder if she takes off the bow during veiled doll duty in order to hide better, you know what I mean? Because that bow would be so noticeable, and so I wonder if that's like their incognito outfit, you know? Then we have everybody singing the song from the third episode, and what I really liked here is that there was actually piano behind it, and that's so good because I actually wanted to do a cover of the song. And so I actually, I reached out to my accompanist that did the Ruby song cover for me, and I was like, oh, like, do you think you could do a piano backing for this? There isn't one, and could you do like a 3-part harmony? Because I'm just extra. So I wanted him to basically construct a harmony for the song, and then possibly also like a piano like backing for it. And he was like, yeah, that's sure, that should be doable. But there were some like personal circumstances that they needed to finish up first. And so now I can actually show them like, hey, like now that the last episode came out, there's actually piano behind them singing now, and that will do, I think, a couple things. Like that'll help them make the piano like backing, and then that'll also, I think, help with the key, like the key signature that the song is in order to construct the harmonies. So that's, look forward to that. Stay subscribed for that, guys, because I'm definitely still gonna do it. I just need to keep waiting. And so yeah, then we basically just see everyone you know, going about their lives. And at first I thought they were hiding the eyes because they were brainwashed again, but it seems like that they're fine. And so I did like to see everyone together, but I think that this is like the line that really hits. And so everyone is singing the song, but then the teacup shatters and you see that it's basically like full of soot. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like the brainwashing is shattered for all of them. And they don't sing the last line. And they say for the sake of the Shadow family, but like it's not. You know what I mean? It's not for the sake of the Shadow's family, it's for the sake of their newfound family. It's that they want to save their newfound family in the house, and they're gonna save everyone. So not for the sake of the Shadow's family, but for the sake of their Shadow's family. That's how I see it, and I think that's why the teacup breaks and they just say it, that we are going to rebel, we are gonna fight for our freedom for the sake of our now found family. I think that's great. And with that, we're done. I can't believe it. Like, I'm actually kind of depressed now. Like, I'm sad because, like, I put off this video so much, you know? And now it's already over. Like, we're already finished and I have nothing else to talk about. I've talked about everything. I've talked about Rum. I've talked about next season. I've talked about where I think they may go with Edward. And I just really want a season 2. Like, I feel like the show, it started, but it didn't really start yet until now, right? Is that fair? Right? Like, I feel like that it just is like it's really starting. Like, the big mystery is like happening. The big rebellion's like happening, right? And so I really hope that we get a season 2 and that they see that it's popular enough to maintain the integrity of the manga and just like do a full adaptation for it. None of this Promise Neverland stuff. Because like, I do see what they mean now. Like, you could end it here and it's kind of contained because it's left open-ended. Like, you imagine that they go on to rebel, but you want a season 2. And so if this is the last season, it does kind of close in a way, but I hope that they'll just like keep going and adapt like the rest of the manga as it is right now. And again, I'm gonna wait, so let me know how long you guys think it's gonna take like to know for sure like whether or not there's gonna be a season 2, because like, oh wait, I gotta do Neverland for like, I feel like Neverland is so much out the window. Like, people are talking about like Neverland Brotherhood and stuff. Like, I don't think so. I just don't. And so I did hear actually with Neverland that there's some sort of fan animation project, and I'm sure that that would be like reactable, right? Like, as opposed to like anime episodes, like more so, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like, obviously it's not like fair use to like react to the entire anime with footage and just slap it up on there, right? And so, but a fan project may be a little bit different, so I don't know. So maybe I'll just wait for that with Neverland. But yeah, guys, that is all from me. I'm sad. Remember that you all should join my Discord server again so we can all stay connected, right? I understand if people don't want their, like, you know, subscription notifications clogged up with, you know, like other stuff that they don't watch. I would suggest them staying subscribed because I am doing other stuff. Like, I'm doing Beastars and Odd Taxi, and I'm sure there's a Venn diagram of you that are interested in Odd Taxi. But if you're just interested in Shadow's House, at least stay subscribed for the song cover. But you should join my Discord or maybe follow me somewhere else, a bit like a low commitment, right? That won't like fill up your video feed, because at least then when Shadow's House comes back, you remember me. Don't forget about me, okay? And so yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. If you're gonna unsubscribe because Shadow's House is over, I totally get it. I would suggest seeing if there's anything else that you're interested in. But if you have to do it, I would say join the Discord, because at least then when Shadow's House comes back, you're in the server, you've been around, you know where to find me, you don't forget about me, all of that sort of stuff. Or stay subscribed so you don't forget about me. Either way. That is all from me, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed my reactions and reviews. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun sitting down and talking with you all each week. And I guess this is goodbye, so I will see you all in the next one. Hopefully a song cover, hopefully. And yeah, that's all from me. Bye, guys!